Hello, everybody, and welcome to Friday Apocryphal Podcast, your one-stop shop for everything Friday Apocryphal and podcast. And boy, do we have a show for you today. Today we are covering Jubilees, chapters 22 through 24. And it's going to be amazing. It's going to blow your minds. It's going to be the most incredible, non-biblical, biblical show you've ever seen in your entire life, bar none, no comparison.
It doesn't get any better than this, folks.
Yep.
Although, we got to start off on a somber note.
A somber note.
Yeah. So if you did not hear about James Randi, I know everyone here has, but if the audience has not heard about James Randi, he has passed away, and that sucks.
Yes, James Randi is gone. And now, you psychics out there, you're never going to have the chance to get that $1 million.
You know, he ended that thing before he died.
Yeah. I mean, but you could have convinced him.
No,
probably.
I talked to him for a good hour, actually, when he was in Madison before he gave a presentation, long before he gave a presentation. And he talked to me because I wasn't really interested in talking. It was kind of funny.
Well, I'm sure if you went in there Darth Vader style and people were just like flying side to side and you were like force choking people, it would be like, yeah, maybe there's something going on there.
Nah, magnets.
Okay.
Those are some very nice magnets you have.
By the way, this episode is dedicated to James Randi.
Yeah.
He was cool.
James Randi.
I think.
He's gone now.
Yeah.
You know, we could find out later he wasn't, but
what did he get?
You know, whatever.
What did he get?
What did he die of?
Oh, it just said age-related reasons.
Age-related.
So it's very vague, but that was yeah.
That's rough.
Also, the dog in Wishbone died, but there were 14 of those, so who cares?
Okay. Although, yeah,
we're 6 more times.
Talking about Jubilees today.
Yeah, we're talking about Jubilees.
Yeah, continuing on our story, and we're going to be talking about, Abraham dies in this one. Mm-hmm. And then we have some stuff from Jacob and some stuff from Isaac.
Wow.
Including that whole birthright thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That thing that was supposed to not happen here.
Yeah.
Just like Abraham's death was not supposed to happen here. It was supposed to happen before Esau was born.
Well, do you know what? It is what it is. That's the way it is in Jubilees.
Yep.
So
I wonder what he was basing this. Is this like...
Well, I mean, it was a commentary on Genesis.
It was a commentary, but it doesn't follow Genesis.
Not exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got the gist.
Okay. Well,
I don't know why, honestly.
Strange. Maybe they had a different version of Genesis.
Maybe they had just a different reason for putting it this way altogether.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Chapter 22. In the first week, in the 43rd Jubilee, during the second year, 2109, it was the year in which Abraham died. Isaac and Ishmael came from the well of the oath to their father Abraham to celebrate the festival of weeks. This is the festival of the first fruits of the harvest. Abraham was happy that his 2 sons had come. So here, I think this is different. I don't recall Ishmael coming back to visit Abraham before his death in Genesis. For Isaac's possessions in Beersheba were numerous. Isaac used to go and inspect his possessions and then return to his father. At that time, Ishmael came to see his father, and both of them came together. Isaac slaughtered a sacrifice for the offering. He offered it on his father's altar that he made in Hebron.
Well, we're getting some more good use out of that altar.
Yeah. You know, in the previous chapters and in Genesis, Abraham married this other woman and had more children. You remember?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not the important part here.
Yeah, but here, Isaac and Ishmael, for some reason, even though this never happened in the Bible, show up here. It doesn't say anything about his other children showing up. I wonder why.
the two sons, though they traveled together, play different roles in Hebron. The writer makes it clear that Isaac is the one who assumes the priestly function, of course, with the sacrifice. First, he simply reports Isaac's slaughtering of a victim, or so it seems. In the Ethiopic text, Isaac executes a victim for an offering, a term used in chapter 21 in connection with the peace and well-being offering. Makes sense. The Latin uses the term fructum. Sounds all fancy. Ooh. A term, that's another word employed in chapter 21 regarding the peace offering. Neither term is the actual name of the sacrifice, but the writer may be hinting in verse 3 about the nature of the sacrifice, that in verse 4 he will call a peace and well-being offering. The altar used, was the one that Abraham had constructed.
He sacrificed a peace offering and
there it is.
Prepared a joyful feast in front of his brother Ishmael. Rebekah made fresh bread out of wheat. She gave it to her son Jacob to bring to his father Abraham, some of the first fruits of the land, so that he would eat it and bless the Creator of everything before he died. Isaac, too, sent through Jacob his excellent peace offering and wine to his father Abraham for him to eat and drink. He ate and drank. Then he blessed the Most High God, who created the heavens and the earth, who made all the fat things of the earth, and gave them to humanity to eat, drink, and bless their Creator. Now I go into this prayer here.
Yeah, Abraham's prayer.
Yes, which doesn't... Yeah, I guess this is the blessing that they were talking about.
Yeah.
Now I pay homage to you, my God, because you have shown me this day. I am now 175 years of age, old and satisfied with my days. All of my days have proved to be peace for me. The enemy's sword has not subdued me in anything at all that you had given me and my sons during all my lifetime until today. May your kindness and peace rest on your servant and on the descendants of his sons, so that they, out of all the nations of the earth, may be your acceptable people and heritage from now until all the time of the earth's history, throughout all ages.
So a couple things about this prayer. So from the very beginning, so once he had eaten and drunk the nourishment given to him by Jacob, Abraham offered a prayer of thanks to my God for bringing him to this time and situation, a time when he was 175 years of age. Both the Ethiopic and Latin versions document the number, which is good. There's some agreement there. The verb he uses suggests he is acknowledging this God. It does not seem likely in the context that he is submitting himself as he had done throughout his lifetime. Here he is recognizing or acknowledging that God was the one who had made events take place as they had, which, he
always does that.
Time for everything. Everything at its proper time, right?
Yeah. Of course, the Christians say that this all was invalidated with Jesus, who...
Well, it's not invalidated.
Well, it depends on which Christians you ask, doesn't it?
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah. That's true.
Because some of them will say, well, there's 144,000 Jews who will be allowed into heaven after the...
And then they're the ones... okay, so if you're talking about like Jehovah's Witnesses here, they don't even say Jews. They just think it's 144,000 people. Mm-hmm. And then I have to be the one to tell them it just says sons of Israel. So unless you're Jewish, you're not getting in there. Mm-hmm. That's and by the way, that they are misrepresenting that passage entirely. Let's just get that straight.
Yeah.
But assuming that they had or at least almost the proper interpretation, they would still not get into heaven unless they were Jews.
Yeah. But
whoopsie floopsie.
Like when it comes to Christianity, it's never been like a heritage kind of theology, right? It's not like you're a Christian because your people who you are descended from were given this special covenant with God, right? I can't recall any Christian denomination that's like that.
I mean, other than just, being raised as part of it, no, I don't think so.
Yeah. So, like, this is something that Christianity totally abandoned, is the covenant, and throughout all time, my descendants will be. And this isn't just in Jubilees, right? I mean, this sentiment, at least, is throughout the entire Old Testament.
Yeah, that's it. The whole generations thing, the seed is very important.
Yeah, and I find it strange because in the book of Matthew, Jesus says that he didn't come to invalidate the law. He didn't come to replace it.
Right. Which is why I wouldn't say that, I don't think that many Christians honestly say this stuff is invalidated somehow. I don't think that's the word they would put on it. I think they would.
That's invalid.
Like they would say that it was the law was fulfilled. That doesn't mean it's invalidated.
Yeah. Fulfilled for all time throughout all the ages in all of the world until it ends, right? As the books say. But I also have never found any Christian denomination that recognizes the Jews as being of a special importance to God, in the present.
I mean, I would still think that they would say that. Well, I guess in the present would be a little bit different, but it is Judaism is kind of necessary for Christianity.
I mean, historically necessary.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But I think most Christians would prefer if all Jews became Christians.
Sure, yeah.
Right. So I don't think that there's anything of the heritage or the descendants or anything that follows through into the Christian tradition.
Yeah.
Anyways, let's keep going here. He summoned Jacob and said to him, "My son Jacob, may the God of all bless and strengthen you to do before him what is right and what he wills. May he choose you and your descendants to be his people for his heritage in accord with his will throughout all time. Now you, my son Jacob, come close and kiss me." So he came close and kissed him. Then he said, "May my son Jacob and all his sons be blessed to the Most High God throughout all ages. May the Lord give you righteous descendants, and may he sanctify some of your sons in the entire earth. May the nations serve you, and may all the nations bow before your descendants. Be strong before people and exercise power among all of Seth's descendants. Then your ways and the ways of your sons will be justified, so that they may be a holy people. May the Most High God give you all the blessings with which he blessed me, and with which he blessed Noah and Adam. May they come to rest over the sacred head of your descendants throughout each and every generation and forever. May he purify you from all filthy pollution, so that you may be pardoned for every sin you have committed in ignorance. May he strengthen and bless you. May you possess the entire earth. May he renew his covenant with you, so that you may be for him the people of his heritage throughout all ages. May he truly and rightly be God for you and your descendants throughout all the time of the earth."
So one of the things I found interesting about this was the phrasing "all filthy pollution." I love that. So
but there's more of this descendants lineage thing.
Yeah. So Abraham
Your
next
favorite.
turns to
They should have a list.
Abraham next turns to the ongoing need for Jacob to be pure as he comes to occupy the extraordinary position envisaged for him. In the Ethiopic version, he prays that God will purify or keep him pure from all the filthy pollution, or literally all the impurity of filth, while the Latin translation uses two nouns, filth and injustice. His words may imply that such unfortunate actions will occur and will have to be addressed through the means available for the purpose. Both pollution, filth, impurity, and sins, or iniquities, serve as phenomena that are purified in the Hebrew Bible. Yeah, and then he cites a lot of passages, including stuff from Ezekiel and Leviticus, Jeremiah.
When are we getting to Ezekiel?
Shouldn't be that long.
It's after Jeremiah, I think.
Okay, so
It might not be the one right after Jeremiah.
Yeah, but
It's shortly after Jeremiah.
I just think that it's been brought up.
Yeah,
It
there's
has been.
like the donkey dick thing that happens in Ezekiel.
that
right?
one, that's pretty funny. Yeah, let's face it.
Fair enough.
Also, Ezekiel was like, another one of the prophets that very, very critical.
Anyways,
it should be interesting.
Yep.
Let's continue then. Now you, my son Jacob, remember what I say, and keep the commandments of your father Abraham. Separate from the nations, and do not eat with them. Do not act as they do, and do not become their companion, for their actions are something that is impure, and all their ways are defiled, and something abominable and detestable.
You know, this is sounding
Incredibly racist.
well. There is that, yeah, but also there is the phrasing, at least, is very similar to the whole the fools verse in Psalm 14:1, because the second half of that verse that a lot of people just kind of pass over was that all their deeds are vile, there is none who does good. So it was very reminiscent of that what we just read.
Yeah. Earlier on.
And also I'm sure this guy knew Ezra, and Nehemiah. Big fan.
So in verse 14, back a little bit, he says, may you be pardoned, or so that you may be pardoned for every sin you have committed in ignorance. So
Sorry, what verse was that?
that's in verse 14.
Okay. Yeah, in ignorance.
Yeah. So I'm sure you've seen the meme or the story, the picture, the email chain where it's like the Eskimo says, if I didn't know about this, would I go to... Yeah. But here it's pretty explicit, right? It doesn't matter if you know the law or not. If you commit the sin, you're guilty of committing the sin. And if you don't get that special pardon, you don't get pardoned.
Well, so the expression for the kinds of faults from which he would experience pardon reads differently in the two versions. So Ethiopic, sin you have committed in ignorance, and the Latin, your unjust acts and your sins of negligence. So the Ethiopic word there for sin is, and I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing this, I probably am, abasha, I don't know, transgression, serious fault, iniquity, offense. Yeah, you get it. They all agree that inadvertent sins are involved, but they disagree about how the first noun relates to the second. Are they joined in a single expression, as in Ethiopic, or are they two separate entities joined by a conjunction, as in Latin? There is reason to believe that the Ethiopic version has retained the better reading. In Leviticus 4 and Numbers 15, chapters where inadvertent sins are treated, a recurring expression includes the verb sin and in negligence. Numbers 15:28 is a parallel, and in it the verb atone also figures. And the priest shall make atonement before the Lord for the one who commits an error when it is unintentional, to make atonement for the person who then shall be forgiven.
It's a bessa.
Okay.
Okay, and so this verse 16 here, like, can you imagine like a modern day, right now, on the stage, Donald Trump, right, or any politician, right, Donald Trump, Joe Biden,
Darth
Kamala,
Sidious.
Darth Sidious, whatever, where they say, now you, I guess, American people, remember what I say and keep my commandments separate from other nations and other people. Don't act like them. Don't eat with them. Don't become their companions because they're impure.
Yeah, very xenophobic, very racist.
Culturalist.
Says all their ways are defiled and something abominable and detestable. Could you imagine like anyone in the public eye saying that about any group today?
That's verse 14, right?
That's verse 16.
16.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, you're right. I was actually on 16. I don't know why I said 14 because we were just talking about 14.
We were just talking about 14.
Trying to see if there's there is some commentary here on this. So it seems as if the context of Leviticus 20 continues to influence the passage in the next prohibition, do not eat with them. After the Lord talks about the abominable practices of the nations in Leviticus 21 through 20, he exhorts Israel to keep his commands and statutes so that they may remain in the land, and tells them not to imitate the practices just enumerated. Since he has separated Israel from the nations, quote, you shall therefore make a distinction between the clean animal and the unclean, and between the unclean bird and the clean. You shall not bring abomination on yourselves by animal or by bird or by anything with which the ground teems, which I have set apart for you to hold unclean. Mm-hmm. That's Leviticus 20:25.
Right.
The nations apparently ate the forbidden foods, and Israel was to be separate from them and their disgusting dietary practices. At least some expositors understood the separation to involve not eating with people from the nations. One of them is the author of the letter of Aristes, as the high priest Eleazar explains the meaning of the dietary laws. He includes these comments about them. The symbolism conveyed by these things, for example, the separation taught by the cloven hoof, compels us to make a distinction in the performance of all our acts, with righteousness as our aim. This, moreover, explains why we are distinct from all other men. The majority of other men defile themselves in their relationships, thereby committing a serious offense. We are quite separated from these practices.
Mm-hmm. Our people are better than other people.
Yeah.
Oh. This next upcoming line, in fact, these two verses, right? They're very Alex Jonesy.
Oh, great.
They offer their sacrifices to the dead and they worship demons.
Oh, wow.
They eat in tombs and everything they do is empty and worthless. Yeah.
Thanks, Alex.
That was verse 17, right?
Yeah. Then it says, they have no mind to think, and their eyes don't see what they do, and how they err is saying to a piece of wood, you are my God, or to a stone, you are my Lord, you are my deliverer. They have no mind.
Wow.
Thanks, Alex.
Harsh words.
Harsh words.
Yeah. So let's talk about the. I wish it was wrestling. Although I do think Alex Jones would be a very good promoter.
Oh man,
he'd cut a really good promo. Let's be honest here.
I think Alex Jones would do great on commentary.
Absolutely, I would love to listen to Alex Jones on commentary.
Yeah. Wow, it'd be great.
It would be ridiculous. It'd be like listening to Chris Jericho, except like on steroids.
Yeah. And he's always freaking out. His eyes are like popping out of his eyes.
Yeah.
Just screaming.
Anyways, so let's talk about these idolaters. So the ways of the nations that are to be avoided include the religious exercises that are the focus of verses 17 and 18. Makes sense, The writer had seized the opportunity to disdain idols and idolaters before, but here he prefaces his criticism with references to deviant rites of which the nations are guilty.
Yeah.
Abraham charges them with sacrificing to the dead, a subject mentioned elsewhere in ancient Jewish literature. Let's see this. He cites something else. He cites a book we don't have. Sorry, guys. Psalm 106:28 says of the Israelites in the wilderness that they attached themselves to the Baal of Peor and ate sacrifices offered to the dead. Mm-hmm. Apparently, they were imitating their Moabite and Midianite hosts in doing so. And then we can check Numbers 25. Ben Sira refers to offering food on a grave and follows it with words that make it seem as if it was sacrificed to gods. Quote, "Of what use to an idol is a sacrifice, for it can neither eat nor smell." Yeah, that I remember that from Ben Sira.
Okay.
They're useless.
Yeah.
You got to give them an eating and smelling parts.
Yeah. So this
So
scene,
these people are mindless.
we'll get to all that. There's quite a lot of harsh words that have been used. So we'll get to all of it. So the notion of eating in tombs, and this is related to Psalm 106, which also shares a lot of parallels here. So the notion of eating in tombs is related to sacrificing to the dead. The deceased and the living apparently were thought to share the food placed upon graves. Mm-hmm. Psalm 106:28 mentions eating food sacrificed to the dead, and in Deuteronomy 26:14, the Israelite farmer presenting his produce declares that he has not offered any of it to the dead. The words empty and worthless. So, of course, they lead smoothly into the next verse, right? Because this entire thing is about how bad idolaters are. The verse begins and ends with a line about a total lack of understanding on the part of those engaged in such practices. Of course, idolatry. The next charge, "their eyes do not see what they do," refers to those who make and serve idols, not to the idols themselves, as in the biblical passages. Abraham also charges the nations with calling a piece of wood or a stone a god, and that, of course, draws from the Ben Sira stuff.
Idolatry.
Yeah, like these are worthless gods, although the mindless.
Mindless.
Yeah,
They have no mind to think.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't see any commentary on that though.
No.
Sadly.
No, they're just so stupid that they worship these rocks, pieces of wood. As for you, my son, Jacob, may the Most High God help you, and may the God of heaven bless. You know what? This is bullshit, man.
What verse 19?
This whole situation here, right? So Ishmael, right, in 22:1, Isaac and Ishmael come in,
Yeah.
right? And they're like, they make a big deal of it, right? So now it's just Abraham talking to Jacob, right? Ishmael hasn't been here in how long?
Well, maybe he's still there. I think he's just not getting spoken to.
I mean, it didn't say, yeah, but presumably he hasn't seen Abraham for quite some time.
Well, they don't have to tell us like every single thing that happens.
Yeah,
You mind
but
telling me everything that happens?
I mean, in the Bible, Ishmael goes off and never comes back again. In here, Ishmael comes back again. They didn't mention any other time that they come back to again. They're just like, well, Abraham's about to die. Ishmael and Isaac come in. So Abraham's son, who he probably hasn't seen in many years, comes in and he completely ignores him and just talks to Jacob.
Well, Jacob's the important one for the author of Jubilees.
I guess. It's kind of BS, though. I mean, why even mention Ishmael coming back? And, I'm flipping forward. It doesn't say, there's no section where it's like Abraham talks to Ishmael. Doesn't happen. It's just like he dies very shortly after this.
Well, we can continue. I think there might be some commentary on that. So.
Okay. May he remove you from their impurity and from all their error. Be careful, my son Jacob, not to marry a woman from all the descendants of Canaan's daughters, because all of his descendants are meant for being uprooted from the earth. Well, that's pretty terrible.
So in this setting, Abraham warns Jacob about marrying a Canaanite woman. The theme of avoiding such marriages arises several times in Genesis. Abraham made his servants swear that you will not get a wife for my son from the daughters of the Canaanites among who I live, before dispatching him to the old family center to fetch a more suitable wife for Isaac.
Yeah, but think about this. This is like, imagine if like your dad was like, now be careful, Lawrence. Don't marry a woman from all the descendants of African peoples, because their descendants are meant to be uprooted from the earth.
I mean, I agree with you that it's some bullshit.
Yeah,
that's
pretty
just,
terrible.
that's the mentality. That's the kind of mentality that my grandparents have.
Well,
It's really bad. Don't have that mentality.
Yeah.
pretty terrible.
Like they just want me to marry a nice Jewish girl, and I'm like, I'll marry whoever. I don't fucking give a shit. It doesn't matter to me.
Oh, just blatant racism.
There's quite a bit of examples that the author gives here about, you know, all the examples of when someone shouldn't be marrying a Canaanite.
Right, and if you're familiar with Ezra and Nehemiah,
Yeah,
you're familiar.
Yeah,
So
if you know, you know.
These people hate race mixing.
Yeah, the reason Abraham adduces for not marrying such a woman is that the Canaanites have a sentence of doom hanging over them. Yeah, doom. The behavior of their eponymous ancestor had brought this upon them. Noah had cursed Canaan, and Canaan himself had only made the situation worse for himself and his progeny by refusing to migrate to the territory assigned to them and settling instead in the land that would bear his name. When his father and brothers warned him that he and his children will fall in the land and be cursed with dissension, because you have settled in dissension, and in dissension your children will fall and be uprooted forever. He paid no attention to the dire prediction, and thus brought a second curse on himself and his descendants. Abraham alluded to the first curse on Canaan to document the need for Jacob not to intermarry with the doomed race, and hinted at the second by citing from Genesis 10:30, the punishment of being uprooted. Jubilees is as vague in verse 21 and 7:10 through 12 as Genesis regarding why Canaan received severe punishment when his father Ham sinned.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. For through Ham's sin, Canaan erred. That's not how moral responsibility for actions works.
Exactly, just as vague.
Yeah. All of his descendants and all of his people who remain will be destroyed from the earth. On the day of judgment, there will be no one descended from him who will be saved. There is no hope in the land of the living for all who worship idols and for those who are odious. For they will descend to Sheol and will go to the place of judgment. There will be no memory of any of them on the earth. As the people of Sodom were taken from the earth, so all who worship idols will be destroyed.
Yeah, so gonna be some, you could almost call it apocalyptic.
Almost.
How it's gonna be, I wouldn't call it apocalyptic.
So they don't.
But it's devastating, the force that will be released.
Yes, but they don't
The
make the
destruction.
claim that there will be no idolaters, right? They make the claim that during the end times, on the day of judgment, all of the idolaters will go to Sheol. Right?
You'll get your upcomings. You'll see.
Yeah. But it's still like, destroy all of them.
Yeah.
Kill them all. Could you imagine if that was how the United States, like people were like, the United States is a Christian nation, right? If we were an actual Christian nation, like on crusades like this to wipe out all of the non-Christians.
The thing is, this was before, all the Jesus
Right,
stuff. So
of course. But I guess if we were a traditional Jewish nation, right? And we were like, well, gotta wipe out everyone else.
Or wait for God to do it, I guess.
Or wait for God to
Because
do
that's
it.
because the day of judgment would be.
But, they say God helps those who help themselves, so...
Okay.
Yeah. Ridiculous stuff. Don't be afraid, my son Jacob, and do not be upset, son of Abraham. May the Most High God keep you from corruption, and from every erroneous way may he rescue you. This house I have built for myself to put my name on it upon the earth. It has been given to you and to your descendants forever. It will be called Abraham's house. It has been given to you and your descendants forever because you will build my house and will establish my name before God until eternity. Your descendants and your name will remain throughout all the history of the earth. Then he finished commanding and blessing them. The two of them lay down together on one bed. Jacob slept in the bosom of his grandfather Abraham. He kissed him 7 times, and his feelings and mind were happy about him.
All right. So some stuff we should probably talk about here. I'm trying to figure out where to even start with this, because that was a weird verse.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So since Abraham had given Jacob orders as well as blessing him, the writer adds that he had also finished delivering commands. One then learns that the 175-year-old patriarch and his 15-year-old grandson Jacob lie down on a single bed, a literal instance of the familiar phrase, slept with his fathers. Jacob fell asleep in the bosom of Abraham, though New Testament scholars seem not to have paid too much attention to it. This is an early attestation of the phrase later found in the parable of the rich man and Lazarus, where Lazarus is pictured in the afterlife as being in Abraham's bosom. That's Luke 16:22 through 23.
Oh, we'll have to remember that.
In Jubilees, the bosom of Abraham is clearly a special place, of course, the place where his dearest grandchild and successor lies. Abraham expresses his warm and complete affection for the sleeping Jacob by kissing him 7 times, an affection involving both his feelings and his thoughts, because 7 times is
a special number.
It's the completeness.
Yeah. So he kissed him to completion. But
why do we exist?
No one knows.
Why is life like this?
No one knows. These are great questions that we all want to answer.
Anyways, now Abraham's going to bless Jacob while he sleeps. He blessed him wholeheartedly and said, "The Most High God is the God of all and creator of everything, who brought me from Ur of the Chaldeans to give me this land in order that I may possess it forever and raise up holy descendants so that they may be blessed forever." Then he blessed Jacob, "My son, grandson, with whom I am exceedingly happy with all my mind and feelings. May your grace and mercy continue on him and his descendants for all time. Do not leave or neglect him from now until the time of eternity. May your eyes be open on him and his descendants so that they may watch over them and so that you may bless and sanctify them as the people of your heritage. Bless him with all your blessings from now until the time of eternity. With your entire will, renew your covenant and your grace with him and with his descendants throughout all the generations of the earth." And that is the end of chapter 22. If you're enjoying the stream so far, give us a like, share, comment, subscribe, send it to your church, send it to your synagogue, send it to your mosque, send it to
Hashtag Friday Apocryphal
Send it
Podcast.
to anyone, because, we don't have any growth from other algorithms, so you have to do it.
Yeah.
You're our growth. Go grow for us.
Yeah, word of mouth, all that stuff, link sharing and channel spreading. Okay, let's we can hop into the next chapter. Ruben's gonna hand over the translation to me, and here's some commentary for you. Oh, he's gonna be right back. Of course he is. So I guess before we hop into the next chapter, I can introduce it a little bit. How about that? Yeah? 23?
No.
All right. So here's some stuff about chapter 23. The first section of chapter 23 continues the story from 22, of course, by relating the death of Abraham and the rites of mourning that it set in motion. A notice about his age at the time of his death introduces a unit that reflects on the changes in human in human longevity, how the long lives of the antediluvians gave way to progressively shorter ones as human sin continued and intensified after the flood. Following an event that triggers a change when the children begin studying the law and commandments, the lives of the righteous will begin to lengthen until they exceed the number of years enjoyed by the first people, which, if you remember from Genesis, was the very long time. You know, if you take into account Adam, that was like 900 and something years. I think that's how long Adam
40
lived.
something.
A long time. Very long time. And I think what was the age that was said to be maximum, like 120?
120, I thought was just the max.
125, something like that.
I don't remember if it went higher than that.
Yeah.
I thought it was straight up 120.
It may have been that. I don't 100% remember. Although there was 120. Okay, so it's 120. Although I remember later in the book there was, I think in Kings, someone was said to live past that. I forget which person it was. Either way.
I know that the Methuselah guy also lived an incredibly long time.
Here's this, Ruben. I will hand this over to you. Don't worry, I bookmarked it for you, buddy.
Incredible.
Yeah. All right, so we can
like it's not credible.
We can hop into chapter 23 then, shall we?
We shall. Do it.
He put 2 of Jacob's fingers on his eyes and blessed the God of gods. He covered his face, stretched out his feet, fell asleep forever, and was gathered to his ancestors.
So this action resembles the one mentioned in Genesis 46:4, where God reassures Jacob that he will accompany him to Egypt and, quote, Joseph's own hand shall close your eyes. It is meant to be, as commentators on Genesis write, a tender and moving gesture.
Okay.
And in Jubilees, it appears to be that another sign of the close relationship between Abraham and Jacob.
During all of this, Jacob was lying in his bosom and was unaware that his grandfather Abraham had died. When Jacob awakened from his sleep, there was Abraham cold as ice. He said, "Father, Father!" But he said nothing to him.
Wow, it's like the land before time.
Yeah. Then he knew that he was dead.
Ugh, that's tough.
He got up from his bosom and ran and told his mother Rebekah. Rebekah went to Isaac at night and told him. They went together, and Jacob with them, carrying a lamp in his hands.
Yeah, so the sequence in which Jacob informs family members is striking and characteristic of the author. He first goes to his mother Rebekah, and then she relays the message to Isaac, the son of Abraham's old age, the one he loves so much, but who did not recognize Jacob's superiority over his brother Esau, was merely the third to discover that Abraham had died.
How could you not realize that superiority?
Yeah,
It seems so obvious.
Genesis has none of this. 25:9 says only that Isaac and Ishmael buried him. See below on Jubilees 23:7. In Jubilees, Isaac, Rebekah, and Jacob, not Esau, all go where his body lay, with Jacob helpfully carrying a light because the death occurred at night. When they arrive, Isaac expresses his feelings for his father. The writer quotes words from Genesis 50, verse 1, where Joseph threw himself on Jacob's dead body, relates that he fell on his father's face, cried, and kissed him.
Okay. When they came, they found Abraham's corpse lying there. Isaac fell on his father's face, cried, and kissed him. After the report was heard in the household of Abraham, his son Ishmael set out and came to his father Abraham. Okay, so Ishmael wasn't there.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, I'm guessing here that that initially Ishmael was there, and then I don't know. Abraham just took Jacob off away somewhere just to talk to him, and then he died. And Ishmael was like, "Well, I guess Ishmael was left all alone, so he just walked away. He was like, whatever, I'm going home.
Mhm.
And then now he's finding out about it again.
Right. But so the reactions to Abraham's deaths revealed the admiration and love that the family members had for him.
Yeah, I'll finish off the verse there. So he mourned for his father Abraham, he and all the men of Abraham's household. They mourned very much.
Okay. This introduces a legal problem. Both Jacob and Isaac touched the dead body of Abraham and thus rendered themselves impure through corpse contamination.
Unclean.
Yep.
Oh,
Purity is an important topic in Jubilees, but the author who has created the scene seems oblivious to the problem. In a passage without parallel in Genesis 25, he makes both of the patriarch's special descendants defile themselves. The issue has been emphasized by Ravid, who sees this as an instance in which the writer shows no concerns for matters of ritual purity. She draws attention to the gravity of corpse impurity in Numbers 19, where a person who has touched a dead body, rendering him impure for 7 days, and yet not purified himself at the right time with cleansing water, is to be cut off from his people because he has defiled the tabernacle. That's Numbers 19, 11 through 13. The temple scroll, see 11Q19.
And I do not have my Dead Sea Scroll book.
Damn.
We rarely ever need that, honestly.
It was around.
We should have it, though. Also indicates the severity of such impurity. In light of the teachings of the Torah and in the scrolls, and she adds that in Jubilees, the priests Abram and Levi ran the danger of coming into contact with dead bodies in battle. It is peculiar that the writer allows such actions and provides no remedy for purification after them. Ravid thinks the author opposed the priesthood of his time and its system of ritual purity and impurity.
They, both of his sons, Isaac and Ishmael, buried him in the cave of Machpelah near his wife Sarah. All the people of his household, as well as Isaac, Ishmael, and all their sons, and Keturah's sons, in their places mourned for him for 40 days.
Mm-hmm.
Then the tearful mourning...
So the sons of Keturah are ones who did not journey to Hebron for the occasion.
Yeah.
So that answers the previous question I had about where these other kids were.
Then the tearful mourning for Abraham was completed.
Yes. Now, 8 through 31 are going to be the pattern of human lifespans, according to the Ermenia commentary. Wow, I read way too much German, I guess. I'm just used to this thick book being... But anyways, so verse 8 should be considered part of the section that follows. It gives Abraham's age at death, and in that sense it concludes the long unit covering his life. But the number of years in his life serves as a springboard for the next verses, because the great hero's age at death required some explanation. Why did a person who was a friend of God, who had proved extraordinarily faithful to him throughout all his days, live for only 175 years? When his ancestors, some of them with dubious religious credentials, lived longer than he did. In order to clarify the matter, the author contextualizes his modest years in the sweep of world history, locating them relative to the ages of those before him and the ones who would come after him. So.
And I think, while you were away, while you had been ascended, actually, I was reading out part of the Hermenia commentary, and they were talking about the declining of lifespans because of the sins of humanity. Mm-hmm. So the sins going up, lifespan going down. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if you heard that, but that's what I was talking about beforehand.
I heard a little bit of that.
Okay. Well, now you know. Okay.
Guys, we got to be nicer to each other or else we'll die.
I will never be nice to either of you. You are horrible people.
Person. What did I do?
You are both just horrible.
At what?
At life, everything.
Ah, jeez.
You're murderers.
No.
He had lived for 3 jubilees and 4 weeks of years, 175 years. When he completed his lifetime, he had grown old and was satisfied with his days.
Yeah, so Jason, you got to remember that in Jubilees, there was written law before Moses.
Yeah,
it was written by Enoch and Noah.
Yeah, there is that the laws of heaven, but we also have to remember that Jubilees was written, well after the law was written. Mm-hmm. So from the context of the author of Jubilees, he wouldn't want these sins placed on the forefathers. Like he wouldn't want to make them look bad.
Yeah.
Like even if something wasn't think about it this way. So there's stuff that's illegal now that wasn't illegal in the past. Mm-hmm. But if someone was, is generally thought of to be good historically speaking, we have to remember that it's in that context, because if we take them with the laws now, for example, or just the general moral codes now, how society has just changed, they would just seem like pretty bad people. Like
moral relativism.
Yeah, we can try to like George Washington, right? There's some good stuff about George Washington.
He also
he had slaves.
Yeah, he also stormed British camps at night while they were sleeping and murdered them in their sleep.
Yeah, so so we have this kind of image that for some people it's very hard to not necessarily grasp, but it's sometimes hard to cope with that, I guess.
Mm-hmm. What killed George Washington?
When you have this good image of somebody, but the truth is really murky and not really all that great. Yeah. So it's kind of the thing that the author of Jubilees would have been trying to protect the reputation or the image of the forefathers.
We also have to note that the person who's speaking this in the story is an angel, right? So this is an angel who's delivering this information to Moses in Jubilees. That's what Jubilees is, right? So probably the angel in the story is providing explanations as to why these laws that were just provided to Moses were broken by those who came before him, or giving excuses or whatever, because Moses is being provided the laws. This takes place during the episode wherein he receives the law, right? No. So there has to be some explanation for those who came before him and what they did, how it impacted their relationship with God.
Guys?
Yeah, actually,
and his tooth decay was...
No, that was the cause of death.
Yeah.
The end of this chapter, we're actually going to, touch back on the Moses thing. Mm-hmm. So, for the times of the ancients were 19 jubilees for their lifetimes. After the flood, they started to decrease from 19 jubilees to be fewer with respect to jubilees, to age quickly, and to have their time be completed because of the numerous difficulties and through the wickedness of their ways, with the exception of Abraham. For Abraham was perfect with the Lord in everything that he did, being properly pleasing throughout all his lifetime. And yet even he had not completed 4 jubilees during his lifetime by the time he became old, because of wickedness, and reached the end of his time.
Yeah, so this is just because of how wicked the world is at that time.
Yeah. Be a nice guy or die.
Yeah. Die anyway.
All the generations that will come into being from now until the great day of judgment.
So from now being the moment on Mount Sinai,
yeah,
where Moses is communicating with this angel.
Yeah. Will grow old quickly before they complete 2 jubilees. It will be their knowledge that will leave them because of their old age. All their knowledge will depart. In those days, if a man lives a jubilee and 1/2 of years, it will be said about him, he has lived for a long time. But the greater part of his time will be characterized by difficulties, toil, and distress without peace.
Sounds very Ecclesiastes.
It does sound very Ecclesiastes. Also,
Sounds very Russian.
yes, also very modern.
Mm.
And
Yeah,
it fits right into the mod. Exactly.
What verse are you on right now?
Just about to start 13.
Okay, so you finished 12?
Yes.
So Psalm 90 is a key source text for the writer here, especially clear through 12. Its wording and teachings will be reflected in several places in chapter 23. It should be noted that Psalm 90 is the only one in the Psalter attributed to Moses. The title reads, A Prayer of Moses, the Man of God. And the revelation by the angel to Moses in Jubilees 23, 8 through 31 may be represented as a circumstance that led to Moses' writing Psalm 90. The angels predict that in the days to come, if a man lived a jubilee in 1/2 of years, it will be said about him, he has lived for a long time. But the greater part of his time will be characterized by difficulties, toil, and distress without peace. A jubilee in 1/2 will be 73.5 years, reminding one of the familiar line in Psalm 90, verse 10. The days of our life are 70 years, or perhaps 80 if we are strong.
Yeah, and Peter, so a jubilee is 49 years.
Mm-hmm. In the future, people will regard a life lasting some 70 years as an impressive accomplishment. But even those few years will be spent in unrelieved suffering. So, now the average human lifespan is 80 years. So, definitively incorrect.
Slowly ticking up.
Yep.
It's been slowly ticking up.
Well, it actually ticked down a
Did
little bit. Yeah, just in this recent generation.
Whoopsie floopsie.
But still, we are, on average, better than someone who has lived a long time, according to ancient Israelites.
Yeah, according to Jubilees.
Yeah.
Because there will be blow upon blow, trouble upon trouble, distress upon distress, bad news upon bad news, disease upon disease, and every kind of bad punishment.
Yeah, so these are quotes, right?
Yeah. Like this one with the other, disease and stomach pains, snow, hail and frost, fever, cold, and numbness, famine, death, sword, captivity, and every sort of blow and difficulty. Now that's so a famine, death, sword, and captivity. Ooh, that sounds very horseman-like. These are some of the great ills, perhaps, or very similar to them.
Mm-hmm. Well, a lot of these things are famine or drought or hunger occurs in Deuteronomy 28:22. Sword, pestilence, famine are mentioned in Ezekiel 7:15. For sword, see Leviticus 26:33, Deuteronomy 32:25, 41 through 42. For captivity, see Deuteronomy 28:36 and 41. Jeremiah and Ezekiel several times combine the three nouns sword, famine, and pestilence, e.g. Jeremiah 42:16 through 17, Ezekiel 5:12. Needless to say, death is likely to accompany famine, sword, and captivity.
So I don't think, it's not the verse I'm thinking of, although I do think it is in Ezekiel. I could be wrong. I quoted it in the Heavenly Horseman video, which, by the way, if you haven't seen, you should go watch later on.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of cool stuff in that. So
like all of these things, the snow, the hail, the frost, the fever, cold, numbness, famine, drought, everything, these are all things that are mentioned throughout the Bible. It looks like throughout here that he references Ezekiel a lot in this section.
So the thing about Ezekiel, I think it's Ezekiel. I could be wrong. But there's this description of, some great ills that will befall the people, and they are pretty much quoted in the Four Horsemen narrative in Revelation. So I was trying to remember what the verse was for that. But these are very similar, is what I'm saying. Those last few ones,
and these next things that are going to be coming up, they're going to be paraphrasing a little bit from Deuteronomy 28, if you remember that.
I do remember Deuteronomy 28. Yeah. That was a trip to read.
Quite intense. Anyone out there who hasn't seen it yet, go check out Deuteronomy 28. It's insane.
Yeah. All of this will happen to the evil generation that makes the earth commit sin through sexual impurity, contamination, and detestable actions. Then it will be said, the days of the ancients were numerous, as many as 1,000 years, and good. But now the days of our lives, days of our lives? That was bad. But now the days of our lives, if a man has lived for a long time, are 70 years. If he is strong, 80 years. All are evil, and there is no peace during the days of that evil generation.
Okay.
Yeah, you get the point.
Evil generation. The phrase, that evil generation, at the end of verse 15 launches the writer into a section about the sinful people of the future.
Yeah, that generation. It's very vague. It's very vague.
Yep.
They're chrome, right?
During that generation, the children will find fault with their fathers and elders because of sin and injustice, because of what they saw and the great evils that they commit, and because of their abandoning the covenant that the Lord had made between them and himself, so that they should observe and perform all his commands, ordinances, and all his laws without deviating to the left or right. So, the big flaw that generation will see, I guess, is their Okay, so the kids of that generation will find their faults?
Yes.
Okay, because that generation is going to not follow God's law. For all have acted wickedly.
Yeah, so experts have often compared the children and the situation in which they find themselves with the group mentioned in 1 Enoch 90, 6 through 7, part of the animal apocalypse. Quote, "And look, lambs were born of those white sheep, and they began to open their eyes and to see them to cry out to the sheep. But they did not listen to them, nor attend to their words, but they were extremely deaf, and their eyes were extremely and excessively blinded." A younger group attempts to call back to their Judean elders on the basis of the insight that they had, their opened eyes, but their efforts, like those of the children in Jubilees 23:16, failed. Charles, among others, understood the lambs of 1 Enoch as the Hasidim, while the sheep are traditional Israelites who cling to an older way. It is noteworthy that both texts appeal to a younger reforming group and their lack of success in dealing with their fellow Israelites. But the group that was the Hasidim of 1 Maccabees seems less certain. Kister has maintained that 1 Enoch 90 and Jubilees 23, with the first column of the Damascus document, the origins of the Essenes are being pictured. It is, of course, very difficult to identify the group behind the label. But it is...
That's a weird one to say it's the Essenes.
Yeah.
I guess it's possible, but that's a weird identification. Okay.
It's clear the text is describing an internal struggle regarding covenantal law.
For all have acted wickedly. Every mouth speaks what is sinful. Everything that they do is impure and something detestable. All their ways are characterized by contamination, impurity, and destruction. The earth will indeed be destroyed because of all that they do. There will be no produce, wine, or oil, because what they do constitutes complete apostasy. All will be destroyed together. Animals, cattle, birds, and all fish of the sea because of humanity. That's not far off. One group will struggle with another. the young with the old with the young, the poor with the rich, the lowly with the great, and the needy with the ruler, regarding the law and the covenant. So the first part of that, that's I guess that's just true of all generations, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's always going to be a
Pretty
class,
general.
always going to be a class struggle, always going to be a struggle between generations.
And
That's just true.
The language
But then it's specifically regarding the law and the covenant.
So the language is reminiscent of the flood account. In verse 18, the angel predicts that the earth will be destroyed because of what the evil generation does. But because God promised that he would never destroy the world with a flood again, the destruction of the earth is forecast in verse 18, and nothing is said about any flood.
Yeah, they're going to destroy themselves.
Yeah.
That's the workaround.
So with all the terrible stuff that happens, the one thing that doesn't get mentioned is a flood.
Yeah. One group will struggle. Yeah, I just read that one. Okay, so yeah, regarding the law and the covenant, for they have forgotten commandment, covenant, festival, month, Sabbath, Jubilee, and every verdict. They will stand up with swords and warfare in order to bring them back to the way. But they will not be brought back until much blood is shed on the earth by each group.
So the inner Jewish warfare of verse 20 has given rise to the theory that Jubilees alludes in prophecy after the fact to circumstances in the time of Judas the Maccabee. As Charles phrased it, this verse describes the warlike efforts of Judas the Maccabee to force the apostates to return to Judaism. He added that after 162 BCE, when the Jews had achieved religious independence so that they could follow their own laws, 1 Maccabees 6:55 through 62, they could. The conflict was no longer with external forces, but with internal ones. The question became whether the Hellenizing faction or the National Party should control the nation. His hypothesis honors the fact that the struggle is presented as being between Jewish groups. And according to 1 Maccabees 7:21 through 25, Judas and his forces turned violently against Alcimus and his supporters. For more on the subject.
So, I kind of get where he's coming from, but I really don't see it. I don't think there's enough to suggest that it's about Judas Maccabeus. So I just don't see it. I see how he got there though.
Could be.
No. Those who escape will not turn from their wickedness to the right way, because all of them will elevate themselves for the purpose of cheating and through wealth, so that one takes everything that belongs to another. They will mention the great name, but neither truly nor rightly. They will defile the holy things of the Holy One with the impure corruption of their contamination. There will be great anger from the Lord for the actions of that generation. He will deliver them to the sword, judgment, captivity, plundering, and devouring. He will arouse against them the sinful nations, who will have no mercy or kindness for them, and who will show partiality to no one, whether old or young, or anyone at all, because they are evil and strong, so that they are more evil than all humanity. They will cause chaos in Israel, and sin against Jacob. Much blood will be shed on the earth, and there will be no one who gathers up corpses or who buries them.
So,
Yeah, that's
what verse was that?
That's those verses 21 through 23. And yeah, very reminiscent of Deuteronomy 28.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In this connection, it's helpful to adduce another passage from the Damascus document that appears related to Jubilees. The text cites Isaiah 24:17. Terror and the pit and the snare are upon you, O inhabitants of the earth, and explains it. Interpreted, these are the three nets of Belial, with which Levi, son of Jacob, said that he catches Israel by setting them up as three kinds of righteousness. The first is fornication, the second is riches, the third is profanation of the temple. The second and the third nets of Belial are the two faults that Jubilees 23:21 finds in the survivors of the war, while the first net of Belial is incorporated in the charge about defiling the sanctuary.
At that time, they will cry out and call and pray to be rescued from the power of the sinful nations, but there will be no one who rescues them. The children's heads will turn white with gray hair. A child who is 3 weeks of age will look old like one whose years are 100.
Oof.
And their condition will be destroyed through distress and pain. Wow, this reminds me of that Futurama episode where Zoidberg grew hair just so it could turn white.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you're born just to get old really fast.
Yeah.
Like that is the collapse. That's how much stress there is.
Well, that's how
yes.
much sin there is, because you got to remember that their explanation for the shortened lifespan
Sins,
is
yeah.
that there's just so much sin in the world. Well, now it's like they've gotten to a point where a child who's born is instantly old because of how much sin there is in the world.
Yeah.
So,
Watch them slowly grow and mutate.
yeah.
Or it's like the Rick and Morty episode where they went through that airport, the international one, and that weird smoke monster came out of a bottle and then instantly was like, I'm free, and then ran away and aged real fast and died.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like that. That's
Just
how
like
fast
that.
life will be.
Yep.
Like fruit flies.
So the children and the reversal in longevity. Oh, yeah, here we go. In those days, the children will begin to study the laws, to seek out the commands, and to return to the right way. The days will begin to become numerous and increase, and humanity as well, generation by generation and day by day, until their lifespans approach 1,000 years, and to more years than the number of days had been. Wow.
Yeah.
So a very long time. And so, we've obviously heard about, the multitude of nations and the expanse of Abraham's children, right?
Yeah.
Although now, along with the numerous spawn, it'll be numerous years in life.
Yeah. And the more righteous that they get, which, of course, is why Enoch never died.
Yeah, you got to be super righteous, and then you get a free ticket. You don't even lose your body in heaven. You just get a free ticket.
There will be no old man, nor anyone who has lived out his lifetime, because all of them will be infants and children.
Yeah, because it's the opposite of what they had set up before.
Yeah. Yeah. But still, it would kind of suck if everyone was an infant
It's
or
like
a child.
What was it? The Time Traveler, I think, H.G. Wells, where
I have no
they
idea.
go to the future and like all the poor people developed into like a brute monstrous
Morlocks.
race. Yeah, and then like the rich people were like basically like
Fairies.
kid-like cherubs.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's the time machine.
Yeah, I think that's the time machine.
Flat up, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Flayed up.
They will complete and live their entire lifetimes peacefully and joyfully. There will be neither a Satan. There it is, a Satan.
Mm-hmm. A Satan. There
Yes.
will be neither Satan.
There will be neither Satan nor any evil one who will destroy. For their entire lifetimes will be times of blessing and healing. And just to anyone that doesn't know, Satan wasn't like the name of the devil or anything like that. It was
An antagonistic foe.
Yeah.
Any of them that were real bad.
Yeah,
That
so
God don't like at all.
that's why it's Satan. So it's the adversary.
Several times, the author of Jubilees marks an ideal period by saying there will be no Satan or evil one. Twice in Egypt during Joseph's reign, 49, 46, 2. In the future, when Israel is purified in the land, 55. For the lack of one who destroys, see Isaiah 65. We'll get to that eventually.
Yeah, well,
The prediction about the renewal of the luminaries says there will be for healing, health, and blessing for all the elect ones of Israel. Healing is among the eschatological blessings in Isaiah 57:18 through 19, 58:8, Jeremiah 3:22, 30:17, 33:6, 1QS
Yeah, a lot
4,
of-
6 through 7.
lot of
Where
stuff.
long
And the
life
rest
is
of the
also
Bible.
mentioned. Yep.
Then the Lord will heal his servants. They will rise up and see great peace. He will expel his enemies. The righteous will see this, offer praise, and be very happy forever and ever. They will see all their punishments and curses on their enemies. Oh boy. Their bones will rest in the earth, and their spirits will be very happy. They will know that there is a God who executes judgment, but shows kindness to hundreds and tens of thousands, and to all who love him.
So let's compare this to Isaiah 66:14. You shall see, and your heart shall rejoice. Your bodies, literally bones, shall flourish like a grass, and it shall be known that the hand of the Lord is with his servants, and his indignation is against his enemies. So, no.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, let's continue here. So this is the last verse of the chapter, and this is when I said we're getting back to Moses.
Yes.
Now you, Moses, write down these words, because this is how it is written and entered in the testimony of the heavenly tablets for the history of eternity.
Yep. So Moses has to write down the words because that's what's written on the heavenly tablets.
Yeah.
Even though they're already written on the heavenly.
But he's got to write them down. He's got to make a copy. They didn't have photocopies yet.
You don't have access to the OGs. Sorry.
Yeah, those are heavenly.
Well, hey, if you're enjoying the stream so far, like, comment, share, subscribe, Amazon wishlist, Patreon, etc.
Yeah, we'll talk about that more later. But yes, that.
Yep.
Oh, speaking of wishlist, so a book came in, Egypt's Role in the Hebrew Bible, and I think that was Jason who picked that one up. So thank you, Jason. It was from Thomas Romer, and I forget the other author.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, we appreciate that.
Yeah. So let's talk about Isaac and the Philistines.
Oh, yeah, I can't wait.
Yep. After Abraham's death, the Lord blessed his son Isaac. He set out from Hebron and went and lived during the first year of the third week of this Jubilee, 2073, at the well of the vision for 7 years. During the first year of the fourth week, 2080, a famine, different from the first famine that had occurred in Abraham's lifetime, began in the land.
What are we covering next? What books do we need?
Tobit. We're covering Tobit next, and someone did already pick that up. It came in.
Oh, very good.
Yeah, I didn't. There was no name that came with it, sadly.
Do we
so
have
whoever
a,
got Tobit for us, thank
we
you.
have this commentary here has Tobit in it. If there's another Tobit commentary.
Well,
up on
the one
list,
that the
then-
translation I got was from the Anchor Bible, so it's a commentary. And a
Oh,
translation.
okay,
Yeah.
cool. Then we have basically everything that we need, but we could always have more.
Yeah. Nothing else on the wish list for Tobit, I don't think.
Okay.
But there's still plenty of stuff on the wish list.
Yep. So now we're getting to a familiar scene.
Yeah.
Something which was supposed to happen a while ago. When Jacob was cooking lentil porridge, Esau came hungry from the field. He said to his brother Jacob, "Give me some of this red porridge." But Jacob said to him, also, instead of red, the Ethiopic reads wheat, a mistake that, as Dillman observed, arose when Greek pyro of wheat was translated rather than the correct pyro, red.
Yeah. So he does note that in here as well.
Okay. But Jacob said to him,
Although, so this is an instance in which the Ethiopic version clearly rests on a mistake made in Greek Jubilees or in reading it, since a term meaning red is vital to the etymology of Edom in the story. Jubilees lacks the extra reference to red found in Genesis 25:30, literally some of the red or this red stuff, and it postpones the explanation of Edom until the end of the unit.
You know, that's so appetizing, that red stuff.
Yeah.
If I offered that on a menu at a restaurant, would you get some?
"Oh,
I'd
it's
Edom.
delicious."
You're totally down. All
I'd
right.
Edom.
Yep. But Jacob said to him, hand over to me your birthright that belongs to the firstborn, and then I will give you food and some of this porridge as well.
And also just compare and contrast here. It's so in Genesis 25:31, Jacob said, "First, sell me your birthright."
Esau said to himself, I will die. What good will this right of the firstborn do? So he said to Jacob, I hereby give it to you. Jacob said to him, swear to me today. So he swore to him. Then Jacob gave the food and porridge to his brother Esau, and he ate there until he was full. Esau repudiated the right of the firstborn. This is why he was named Esau and Edom, because of the red porridge that Jacob gave to him in exchange for his right of the firstborn. So Jacob became the older one, but Esau was lowered from his prominent position.
So let's talk about all that.
Yeah.
Quite a lot to cover. So on the naming there, like, to get to the Edom thing. So Genesis 25:34 concludes the story with a negative comment. Thus Esau despised his birthright. Jubilees reproduces the verdict. In verse 6, Esau repudiated or despised the right of the firstborn. The subject of the birthright arises two more times in the immediate sequel, neither of which has a parallel in Genesis. In the first instance, the writer appends it to the name explanation. Appends it to the name explanation, etymology that had occurred already in Genesis 25:30, but without reference to the birthright. The sentence in verse 6 is odd. This is why he was named Esau and Edom, because of the red porridge that Jacob gave him in exchange for his right of the firstborn. The statement clearly presupposes that the original text had red porridge to explain the name Edom, not wheat porridge, as in the Ethiopic copies. But more importantly, the writer says again that the birthright passed from one brother to the other.
Okay. As there was
it's weird. I can't do that, like, because, as a Jew, I can go on birthright, right? Trip to Israel.
Yeah.
But can I give that to somebody?
I don't think so.
Dude, free gift.
I don't think so either, but
No.
There is some biblical case to be made there about that.
There is.
Interesting.
Yeah.
They gave me porridge. I gave them birthright.
Yeah.
As there was a famine over the land, Isaac set out to go down to Egypt during the second year of this week, 2081. He went to Gerar, the Philistine king Abimelech. The Lord appeared to him and told him, do not go down to Egypt. Stay in the land that I will tell you. Live as a foreigner in this land. I will be with you and bless you, because I will give this entire land to you and your descendants. I will carry out the terms of my oath that I swore to your father Abraham. I will make your descendants as numerous as the stars of the sky. I will give this entire land to your descendants. All the peoples of the earth will be blessed through your descendants because of the fact that your father obeyed me and kept my obligations, commands, laws, statutes, and covenant. Now obey me and live in this land.
Yeah, so the closest parallel there would be Genesis 26:5. And all the nations, actually 4b through 5, and all the nations of the earth shall gain blessing for themselves through your offspring, because Abraham obeyed my voice and kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws. The texts agree word for word, not always obvious in the translations, apart from two differences, where the Masoretic text uses the name Abraham alone, and the Sumerian Pentateuch, the Septuagint, and the Latin have Abraham your father. Jubilees reads your father. And at the end of the verse, its words and covenant are unique to it.
Okay. He lived in Gerar for 3 weeks of years. Abimelech gave orders as follows regarding him and everything that belonged to him. Anyone who touches him or anything that belongs to him is to die. Isaac prospered among the Philistines and possessed much property, cattle, sheep, camels, donkeys, and much property. Latin has "and many servants."
So, tell me, are you already at the end of verse 13?
I just finished verse 14.
You just finished 14?
Yeah.
Wow, just flying through. Okay. So let's talk about verse 13. Jump back to that. The references to his wife have been replaced by everything that belonged to him, and anything that. Okay. Let's talk about Genesis 26:11. Actually, I should probably talk about that first. So. Verse 13 follows with the next borrowing, this time from Genesis 26:11, so that Genesis 26:7 through 10 is omitted almost entirely. The reason is obvious. Those verses tell the story about Isaac's lie regarding his wife and how he lost her, apparently to King Abimelech of the Philistines, who discovered only later that she was his wife. The writer here omits an episode that places one of the patriarchs in a bad light, a time when Isaac chose the wrong example from his father for imitation. He betrays the fact that he knows the full account by reworking the last verse in it. So, Genesis 26:11. So Abimelech warned all the people, saying, "Whoever touches this man or his wife shall be put to death." And then Jubilees 24:13, Abimelech gave orders as follows regarding him and everything that belonged to him. Anyone who touches him or anything that belongs to him is to die. So the references to his wife have been replaced by everything that belongs to him and anything that belongs to him. A reader who saw just verse 13 in Jubilees would have no idea that there had been any problem involving Rebekah. The treatment of the story is more radical than the way in which the author handled Genesis 12:10 through 20. There, in his rewriting, he told much of the story, but not Abram's request that Sarai misinterpret their relationship, and he focused on the fact that Pharaoh took her forcibly.
He planted seeds in the land of the Philistines, and he harvested 100-fold. When Isaac had become very great, the Philistines grew jealous of him. As for the wells that Abraham's servants had dug up during Abraham's lifetime, the Philistines covered them up after Abraham's death and filled them with dirt. Then Abimelech told Isaac, "Leave us, because you have become much too great for us." So Isaac left that place during the first year of the 7th week, 2102. He lived as a foreigner in the valleys of Gerar. They again dug the water wells, which the servants of his father Abraham had dug, and the Philistines had covered up after his father Abraham's death. He called them by the names that his father Abraham had given them. Isaac's servants dug wells in the wadi and found flowing water. Then the shepherds of...
And wadi just means valley.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Then the shepherds of Gerar quarreled with Isaac's shepherds and said, "The water is ours." So Isaac named that well Difficult, quote, "because they have been difficult for us."
Wow. Named it Difficult. What verse was that?
That was verse 19.
Verse 19, okay. Yeah, so the dispute over the precious water forms the background for the naming of the wells. The name of the first is contention, pointed with a sin in the Masoretic text, Genesis 26:20, the only place where the word occurs in the Hebrew Bible. But in both versions of Jubilees 24:19, the term is taken to mean difficult or difficulty. The Syriac cognate to the Hebrew verb, in fact, means difficult. Where the versions of Genesis 26:20 explain that Isaac chose the name because of their actions with him, in Jubilees, he says that they had been difficult for us.
Okay. They dug a second well, and they fought about it too. He named it Hostility. When they had set out, they dug another well, but did not quarrel about it. He named it Wide. Isaac said, "Now the Lord has..."
Because it is wide.
Yeah. "The Lord has enlarged a place for us, and we have increased in numbers in the land."
Of course.
He went up from...
I just want to say that's a little bit on the nose there.
Just a little bit. He went up from there to the well of the oath during the first year, the first week in the 44th Jubilee, 2108. The Lord appeared to him that night on the first of the first month and said to him, I am the God of your father Abraham. Do not be afraid, because I am with you and will bless you. I will certainly make your descendants as numerous as the sand of the earth for the sake of my servant Abraham. There he built the altar that his father Abraham had first built. He called on the Lord's name and offered a sacrifice to the God of his father Abraham. They dug a well and found flowing water. But when Isaac's servants dug another well, they did not find water. They went and told Isaac that they had not found water.
So are you on verse 24?
I'm in the middle of 25.
Okay, so tell me when you're done with 25.
Okay. Isaac said, on this very day I have sworn an oath to the Philistines. Now this has happened to us.
So Genesis 26 through 33. The second instance of an agreement between a patriarch and a Philistine officials that led to the naming of Beersheba becomes in Jubilees a text with a very different message. So verse 24 begins as if it is continuing the text of Genesis 26, where at the end of verse 25, Isaac's servants dig yet another well that in verses 32 through 33 becomes the reason for the initial part of the place name Beersheba. Genesis at this point introduces a meeting between Isaac and three Philistine dignitaries, including Abimelech, and a solemn agreement between them. The scene ends amicably.
He named that place the Well of the Oath because there he had sworn an oath to Abimelech, his companion Ahuzath, and his guard Phicol.
Yeah. The sequel in Jubilees, though, reads much differently than in the Hebrew texts, the Masoretic and the Sumerian Pentateuch of Genesis 26. The author of Jubilees finds two wells in this episode. The well mentioned in Genesis 26:25, and there Isaac's servants dug a well. Nothing is said about finding water in it. Is the one in which, according to Jubilees 24:24, they found flowing water. The second is the well about which the servants speak 7 verses later, and after the meeting with the Philistines in Genesis 26:32. There, the Hebrew texts of Genesis read, that same day Isaac's servants came and told him about the well and that they had dug and said to him, we have found water. As it is phrased in Jubilees 24:25, the verse reads, but when Isaac's servants dug another well, they did not find water. They went and told Isaac that they had not found water. The reason for the contradiction between the Hebrew versions of Genesis and Jubilees is in part textual. So Genesis 26:32, they said to him, we have found water. And then Jubilees 24:25, in the Septuagint tradition, they told Isaac that they had not found water. The reading can be explained as resulting from the difference between two Hebrew words that sound alike and can be spelled in the same way, but the negative sentence is also more appropriate for what follows in Jubilees 24, where something clearly incited Isaac to become furious at the Philistines, as if they were responsible for the failure of Isaac's servants to locate water in the well they had just dug. So 24:25, Isaac said, on this very day, I have sworn an oath to the Philistines. Now this has happened to us.
All right. On that day, Isaac realized that he had sworn an oath to them under pressure to make peace with them. On that day, Isaac cursed the Philistines and said, may the Philistines be cursed from among all the people at the day of anger and wrath. May the Lord make them into an object of disgrace and a curse, into an object of anger and wrath in the hands of the sinful nations and in the hands of the Kittim. Whoever escapes from the enemy's sword and from the Kittim, may the just nation in judgment eradicate from beneath the sky.
Sorry, what verse is Kittim?
Both 28 and 29.
Okay.
For they will become enemies, and opponents to my sons during their times on the earth. They will have no one left, or anyone who is rescued on the day of judgmental anger, for the descendants of the Philistines are meant for destruction, eradication, and removal from the earth. All of Caphtor will no longer have either name or descendants left upon the earth. For even if he should go up to the sky, from there he would come down. Even if he should become powerful on earth, from there will he be torn out. Even if he should hide himself among the nations, from there he will be uprooted. Even if he should go down to Sheol, there his punishment will increase. There he will have no peace. Even if he should go into captivity, through the power of those who seek his life, they will kill him along the way. There will remain for him neither name nor descendants on the entire earth, because he is going to be an eternal curse. This is the way it's been written and inscribed regarding him on the heavenly tablets, to do this to him on the day of judgment, so that he may be eradicated from the earth.
That went, let's face it, that went from 0
to 60.
0 to 100 real quick.
Yeah.
So yeah,
a good car.
We also talked about the curse on the Philistines and whatnot already.
So to be clear, Isaac was like, my servants told me that they dug a well and didn't find water. Now I have to curse the Philistines forever.
Brilliant.
So this commentary is now, like, for this last section, breaking it up line by line now. So not just verse by verse, but line by line.
Ugh.
Yeah. So let's hop into a few things here. So in the hands of the sinful nations and in the hands of the Kittim, and that's in verse 28, I think. Yeah. In Jeremiah 47, the destruction and devastation that are coming on the Philistines are presented as the results of Pharaoh's attack on Gaza, a destruction that is ultimately from the hand of God. The phrase, the sinful nations, should remind one of Jubilees 23 through 24. Already talked about that.
Hey, Matthew.
The text offers no more information about who, in the estimation of the author, the Kittim might be, although he has some more commentary on that. They are well known as enemies in the Qumran literature. However, in the only other occurrence of the term in Jubilees, they are not enemies of the Philistines as here, but allies with them in the war of Esau and his sons against Jacob and his family. So, since Kittim is used in tandem with the sinful nations and the enemy, it may have a more general meaning for enemies from the west, perhaps the Greeks. So continuing on with the Kittim thing. So in Jeremiah 25, the sword that the Lord is sending among the nations to punish them is mentioned in the verse directly before and after the section where Jeremiah pours out the cup of the Lord's wrath. The idea resembles some of the wording in Amos 9:1, a verse directly preceding the part of the chapter that influenced Jubilees 24:31 through 32. And then continuing on to Caphtor? Yes, Caphtor.
Yes, Caphtor.
So it is true that the divine words in Amos 9:1 are addressed to the capitals, quote, strike the capitals, near the altar so that the temple in question shakes and shatters. But it is possible that the author of Jubilees saw some connection to his topic here, since the word for capitals is, and then it lists some Hebrew. Was
Kittim brought up in Maccabees? First one?
I don't think Kittim was.
No,
there was something else.
Think so.
Yeah, I think it was something else. Hasidim, that's for sure.
Mm.
That was referenced. Might be thinking of that. Actually, maybe it was. Maybe Kittim was referenced. I don't remember.
Yeah,
I remember it from somewhere.
Yeah. And anyways, where was I talking about Kittim, right? Or Caphtor, yeah. Anyways, I can't read the Hebrew term, but apparently it echoes Caphtor in 9:7, the place from which the Philistines are said to have come. Isaiah 14:29 is also worth noting. Do not rejoice, all you Philistines, that the rod that struck you is broken, for from the root of the snake will come forth an adder, and its fruit will be a flying fiery serpent. I remember that.
Yeah.
The flying fiery serpent.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, that was interesting to read.
Yeah.
So continuing on here, what I found kind of neat here from Amos, we can compare and contrast some stuff. This is from Amos 9:2 through 4, and comparing it to Jubilees 24:31 through 32. So the stuff that you just read out. Though they actually open up the book again, I want you to do this with me.
Which verse?
Start at 31.
31.
Yeah, 24:31.
For even if he should go up to the sky, from there he would come down.
Yes, okay. So then Amos, starting at Amos 9:2. Though they dig into Sheol, from there shall my hand take them.
Yeah, even if he should go down to Sheol, there his punishment will increase. There he will have no peace.
Yeah, so if we're continuing then, Jubilees, even if he should become powerful on the earth, from there he will be torn out.
Mm-hmm.
So though they climb up to heaven, from there I will bring them down. So it goes along this whole, even though it's not always in the same order, it shares a lot of the similar themes and ideas. It's the same point basically, but just using two different sets of images.
Yeah, and the basic idea is no matter what, this is going to happen. Even if he does such and such,
Overpowered.
Not going to help him.
Absolutely overpowered.
Yep.
By the way, that is the end of chapter 24, and that is the end of the reading for the day. Thank you, everyone.
If you
for joining
enjoyed
us.
joining us,
Yeah, if you enjoyed joining us,
then check out our Patreon where you can see our scripts. You can get in a t-shirt giveaway. You can be on this show. You can be on our after show monthly hangout. Tons of stuff on there you can check out. Also, we have a Teespring, wacky and fun t-shirts on there. And we also have Amazon wish list filled with books.
Lots of books on the Amazon wish list. It's got lots of commentaries, stuff about all sorts of biblical topics.
Yeah, all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
So check it out. Facebook and Twitter are free to follow us.
Absolutely. Just go over there and see the stuff we post and say, and it's classic social media stuff. We are social media gurus over here at Milwaukee Atheists.
Yep. Well,
okay, Teespring, Patreon,
the 666 drive.
Yes,
yep.
666 drive.
So through donations on here, once we reach $666 in donations, we're going to be getting a thetan meter. We're seeing what the most clear is, and we're going to take it apart. We're going to tell you about Scientology.
Yeah, and we are at about 156. Also, I was thinking we could do a kind of ghost hunting thing for one of them. One of the drives. I think
that as a possibility.
Yeah.
We have to do the alchemy one first.
Yeah, I know we do.
Well, I think that's all the shilling that we're going to do.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So hopefully you enjoyed the stream so far. Or
hopefully you enjoyed the stream.
Yeah. Enjoy it.
Yeah.
Enjoy it more. Give us a like or a dislike.
Whatever. Either one.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us, though. And we will see you on Sunday.